So hey anime fans, the series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Devil May Cry. Sitting on the roof of his apartment complex, a young Naruto Uzumaki wore a red, blue, and purple cloth that he had discovered in the trash and had grown to love. He sighed as he gazed up at the moon, which he always enjoyed seeing, especially when it was full. For some reason, it made him feel whole, something he didn't have when the sun was out. Although the villagers and a few ninja would attempt to kill him during the day, the only people who seemed to care about the boy were a few ANBU agents, a teacher at the ninja academy, and the Hokage himself, whom the boy looked up to as a grandfather. In spite of what many may have said, the Hokage taught Naruto the shadow clone jutsu to help him while he was in the village. Unfortunately, one of the side effects of the jutsu was that everything that Naruto's clones went through, Naruto would learn after their death, so in essence, Naruto had died more times than he preferred. He looked down from his perch and sighed when he saw the villager beating on his door. This infuriated him and made him feel sorry for the people who were so filled with hatred that they wouldn't even explain to the 8-year-old why they wanted his head mounted on a wall. Not wanting to deal with them tonight, Naruto leaped from the roof and bounded from building to building, making shadow clones along the way and sending them off in different directions. He always had one with him to handle the cloning because it consumed half of his total chakra, and using the clone helped maintain his own reserves. For reasons the old man would not disclose, Naruto had what seemed to be an almost limitless supply of chakra. He told Naruto that he would tell him about it when the time was right, but in the meantime he should just trust the old man, which Naruto dutifully did. As Naruto leaped from rooftop to rooftop, one of his clones dispelled himself, sending information to him that made him stop dead in his tracks. Dispelling all of his clones, he proceeded to the last location of the one clone and noticed something that made his blood boil with rage and, unbeknownst to him, his eyes blaze with fury. With an angry growl, he leaped onto the ledge and peeked into the room, grateful that no one was inside, and he walked to the girl, covering her mouth with his hand. When Naruto put a finger over his lips, the girl's green eyes opened and looked at him fearfully. The girl nodded, and Naruto made 4 clones, 3 to assist him with the girl's bonds and 1 to search the rest of the house. Once the girl was free, he picked up some cloths from the floor that he thought belonged to her and gave them to her. He may have been only 8 years old, but he was still a man. Naruto said, "Well, can't really have you running around naked if we want to get you out of here," and he did everything he could to avoid looking at the girl. The girl put a hand on his shoulder, and he turned around, smiling at her and him at her. However, his expression changed when he realized what his clone had told him. "What's wrong?" inquired the girl. Naruto said, "There's another girl here." And as he started to walk down the hall, he noticed that the girl was following him. He nodded and sighed, not wanting to be nearby because there were people in the room this time. But if he could divert his attention, she could help the second girl leave. The girl said, "I'm Sakura," attracting Naruto's interest. Gazing back at the girl and her bubblegum pink hair, Naruto questioned, "What?" "My name is Sakura, just Sakura," she answered. Naruto smiled and added, "My name is Naruto Uzumaki, and my pretty name is Cherry Blossom." "The one everyone on the civilian council wants dead," replied Sakura. "Try the whole damn village wants dead," Naruto growled. He brought a finger to his lips and pointed to the door. Sakura nodded. Naruto peeked through the door and held up 5 fingers, indicating that there were 5 people in the room. One of them was a woman that looked a lot like Sakura, but Naruto wasn't about to bring that up. One of the men in there standing next to the woman was a man in a white robe. There was a single girl strapped to the bed like Sakura was, and on top of her was a man getting ready to rape her while another man was getting his weapon primed. Naruto turned back to Sakura, held up 3 fingers, and then pointed in the room. Sakura nodded, showing she understood. Naruto made 5 shadow clones and held up his fingers. He slowly dropped them and burst into the room. 2 of the clones jumped forward and kicked the 2 rapists while one more pinned the woman to the wall and the last one attacked He-Man. Naruto and Sakura worked on freeing the girl from her bonds. Naruto had gotten her legs free when he spun around and blocked Chakra Charge Strike. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruto yelled, "Sakura, get the girl and get the hell out of here." The room was suddenly filled with Narutos. The clones divided into two groups, with the majority escorting the girls out of the room while the others fought off the man and the woman brandishing a sword. Although Naruto was only a child, he was a skilled fighter who could easily take care of himself, though the man had caused the majority of his clones to poof into smoke while the original was engaged in combat with the woman with the blade. One of his clones was by his side when he heard a scream, which caused him to lose focus just enough for the woman to lift her sword and cut off his arm just below the elbow. Naruto screamed in agony as he clutched his arm, growled, and staggered back. He used his cloak to try to stop the blood flow by bandaging the wound. Naruto growled, "Another time, bitch," as he and his clone ran out and leaped out a nearby window. He nodded to his clone, made another one, and then swiftly threw it away. Naruto's head flashed with the girl's position information, and he and the clone fled the area. He didn't blame Sakura and the other girl for their tiredness because they weren't accustomed to fleeing for their lives like he was. However, the lad was beginning to feel the effects of the struggle and blood loss. Sakura and the other girl both nodded when Naruto asked, squirming from the agony, "Can either of you go on?" "Sorry, but I don't think I caught your name," Naruto answered, kneeling in front of the pale-eyed lady. "Hinata," the young woman answered. The three of them began running again until Hinata and Sakura passed out from exhaustion. Naruto was beginning to feel lightheaded. This night had taken a lot out of him, and he was surprised he was still able to move. "It's nice to meet you, Sunshine," he said with a smile. "Now come on, let's get out of here. Those people are on our trail, and I think they're getting help," he said. "Help the girls," he muttered as he blacked out. "Please." As the world began to go dark. N/DMC. With a moan of fury, Naruto slammed his fist against a neighboring table, spilling the water that was on it. His head was pounding, and he was unable to feel his right arm below the elbow. Then he realized that he no longer had that part of his body. "Hey," a voice called out, drawing Naruto's attention. He turned to find a girl wearing a pink Chinese dress, perhaps a year older than him, with her brown hair pulled back in a couple of buns. "You okay?" she questioned. Naruto grunted, "I've been better," and slipped to his right with his missing arm after forcing himself up. The girl was there to help him quickly. "Thanks," he said. The girl smiled and added, "My name is Tenten, but I don't have a real last name." "Naruto Uzumaki," Naruto said. He glanced down at his arm for the first time and noticed the bandaged stump. "Thanks," he said, with a pitying expression on his face. Naruto's eyes widened as he recalled them. "Wasn't me, my mom's the medic, she's in the other room with those two girls you showed up with," Tenten added. Tenten pointed, and Naruto threw his legs over the side of the bed, not caring that he was only wearing boxers, and ran into the room. When he saw Sakura and Hinata curled up on a pair of beds, he sighed with relief, knowing that they were safe. "Hinata, Sakura, are they okay?" Naruto asked, honestly not caring about his own condition. A voice said, "They're doing fine, a little beat up but perfectly fine," and Naruto turned to see a woman standing there grinning warmly. As an afterthought, Naruto said, "You must be Tenten's mother. Thank you for helping them and patching up my arm." The woman answered, "You're welcome, young man," with a kind grin. "My name is Rin," she said. When they heard the irate crowd outside yelling, "Kill the demon, kill the demon, kill the demon," Naruto sighed and muttered, "Naruto Uzumaki," bowing to the woman. He had been enjoying himself so much. "Guess it's time for me to go," Naruto sighed. "Take care of the girls, and whatever you do, do not let a woman with pink hair take them." Rin inquired, "What are you doing?" Naruto moaned, "I'll let them see me so that they don't cause you any trouble." But Rin placed a hand on his shoulder as he moved to go. "It's me thereafter. Demon is apparently their favorite nickname for me, his voice said. You're not going anywhere, she said. I'm going to go out and talk to them. I'll tell them that you're not here, and she left the room. Naruto then hid in the shadows by the window, and Tenten, Hinata, and Sakura joined him a minute later. They watched as Rin attempted to calm down the crazy crowd, and it was successful for a minute until someone yelled something that made them all agitated once more. After that, a certain pink-haired bitch came forward and slapped her across the face. Naruto said, "That's it," before jumping out of the window and kicking Haruno in the face, causing her to fall back. You all saw that? Haruno yelled, completely unprovoked. The demon attacked me. Not provoked? Try assisting one of the few people in this desolate village who genuinely cares about me, Naruto thought. Naruto's eyes widened as a new voice in his thoughts said, "Yeah, it's a pretty fucked up world we live in, kid." Suddenly, he found himself standing in front of a cage in some sort of sewer, his two enormous crimson eyes with split pupils. Naruto stepped back and questioned, "What?" "It's good to see you at last, Naruto. Let me introduce myself correctly. My name is the Nine-Tailed Fox Demon." The creature said, "The Nine-Tailed Demon Fox, as in the one that was defeated by the fourth Hokage," replied Naruto. "If it's any comfort, I'm the primary reason we're still alive. Not defeated, just sealed inside of you, kid," the fox stated, and its eyes appeared to be regretful as it addressed the boy. "Sorry for all the hell you've gone through because I've been put inside you." Another voice said, "Furball's also the reason I've been awakened after, hell, I don't know, and how long has it been out of action? 2,000 to 3,000 years? Naruto turned to see a second man leaning against the sewer walls. He was dressed in a long red coat, boots, and black gloves without fingers, and he had a giant sword with a skeleton-designed hilt resting on his back. His white hair hung over his eyes. Naruto screamed. "And just who in the name of the Hokage's liver spots are you?" The man asked naively. "Me. I'm just your many times removed, many more times great-grandpa," he added, getting to his feet straight and turning to face Naruto. "The name's Dante," he stated. Naruto jerked his thumb back at the fox and said, "Dante, huh? So, what are you doing here in my head?" "I mean, I get why he's here," he said. "But what about you?" Dante clarified. "Well, kid, my dad was a devil, and when a person has devil blood in them, it's kind of dormant until a person comes into contact with a demonic object, and the devil power awakens. In your case, kid, your powers awakened once Fluffy became locked inside of you. And this couldn't have occurred prior to the amputation of my arm," Naruto insisted. "Think yourself fortunate that it's occurring right now, child." The fox snarled. "Most devils don't get the ability to awaken the blood until they are about 18 years old, even if they have a demonic influence." "Okay, if you say so," Naruto said. "So, what will we do about the mob that wants to murder us outside?" "Well, with your devil blood awake, we can give you a new arm and outfit you with the family weapons so you can protect yourself," stated Dante. "I don't care about self-defense at all. But I don't want them to hurt Hinata, Rin, Sakura, or Tenten," Naruto said. Dante was a little surprised by his decedent's reaction, but he smiled at the child and ruffled his hair nonetheless. As Dante proudly remarked, "Kid, you've got quite the burning spirit. Don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise." Naruto smiled at the man before being struck in the stomach, rendering him unconscious. "Well, we'd better get started," he muttered, turning to face the fox. The fox demon remarked, "Whatever you say, son of Sparta," as crimson tendrils of chakra began to seep into the boy's body. Everyone gasped and recoiled as Naruto's body abruptly vanished into a pillar of red chakra, and he stood there with his severed right arm replaced by a blue-scaled arm that pulsed red in time with his own heartbeat. a ribcage and skull tattoo on his right bicep and elbow, what appeared to be a long tail on his left arm. While Rin noticed that a yin-yang symbol and what appeared to be a demonic wing appeared on his back. His once bright blonde hair turned platinum white, his left eye, which had been a deep ocean blue, turned blood red, both pupils narrowed into slits. And his facial whisker marks seemed to become more distinct. Shadow Clone Jutsu, Naruto said, crossing his fingers in front of him to create 3 clones. One clone took a strange angled weapon from his back that was mostly black with a white top and spun it around his finger before holding it sideways in front of him. Now, are you all going to just walk away, or do we have to do this the hard way? Naruto asked as the clones slowly moved their hands along his tattoos, drawing a large broadsword with a skeleton hilt design from his right arm, another okatana from his left arm, and the final one took out a giant, curved, just demonic-looking blade from his back. Die devil! One of the ninjas in the audience screamed and threw kuni and shuriken at Naruto. Naruto simply grinned and pointed his weapon, making noises that sounded like thunder and shattering the flying weapons. Naruto grinned and added, if you want to get technical, it's devil now, his new red eye shining. That's sufficient. Many in the throng were thinking that now that they had seen the demon for what he really was, the Hokage's voice resounded over the crowds. Good evening, old man, isn't it a pleasant evening? Naruto said pleasantly, smiling at the Hokage and nodding to the 2 ANBU officers that were by his side, Weasel, Wolf. While Naruto had believed that the nickname he had been given was due to the marks on his face, he now learned the truth. Evening Fox, Weasel replied warmly. Good evening, Naruto, replied the Hokage. May I inquire what's happening here? Well, perhaps we can talk about it inside, Naruto replied. That is if it's okay with Rin. Rin said, of course, I'll have Tenten put on a pot of tea. Bowing to the Hokage, the old man smiled and nodded to his 2 vanishing ANBU operatives. Naruto did the same to his clones, who did the same. Naruto entered the weapon shop behind the Hokage and soon saw Sakura and Hinata, who leaped towards him and gave him a tight hug. Thank goodness you're all right, Hinata replied, cradling Naruto. We were afraid that they were going to take you away from us, Sakura said. Hey, it's okay you too. I'm okay, and I'm not going anywhere for a while, he said with a smile that appeared to calm them both down. The 3 of them grinned as the Hokage sat down across from them. As Tenten sat down with a pot of tea in front of them, the old Hokage nodded and said, so Naruto, if you would care to begin. Naruto immediately began to explain what had happened this evening, asking Tenten to take Hinata and Sakura into another room at one point when he was concerned that things would become a bit too much for them. At first, they were hesitant, but they eventually agreed. When Naruto told the Hokage everything, the old man became enraged at what he had discovered. Listen, old man, is there anything you can do for them? I don't care what happens to me. The elderly guy sighed and rubbed his white beard thoughtfully as Naruto questioned. Unfortunately, Hinata is bound by clan laws that are near unbreakable, and Sakura's mother will fight tooth and nail to see to it that her daughter is returned to her. The Hokage said, however, but what? Rin inquired, wanting to know how the 2 girls could be assisted. After the Hokage stated, the only way for them to be completely free is to marry into another clan. Naruto arched an eyebrow and fixed the Hokage with a look. So you're telling me that those 2 can only be free if they get married to someone else? With what those girls have gone through, I don't know if there is anyone that can take care of them and treat them right, Naruto remarked, sighing as he ran his fingers through the slicked back side of his hair. He looked up to see Hinata and Sakura standing there observing them all. How about you? Tenten inquired. Her mother reprimanded her daughter, Tenten, as she looked at her. He smiled at Sakura and Hinata, who both smiled and jumped into Naruto's arms, hugging him and nodding. Actually, that's not that bad of an idea, Naruto said, looking up at them. That is, if cherry blossom and sunshine over there will have me, he said. Wish I had a couple of rings so I could do this right, Naruto said. Hinata stammered, actually, after removing a tiny diamond band. It belonged to my mother, the Hokage murmured, taking out a small ring himself. This Naruto belonged to your mother, given to her by your father, said the elderly gentleman. While I can't tell you their names, I can say that I'm sure they would want you to keep it in the family. All right then, Naruto said, forming a shadow clone and bending down in front of the two girls. Will you marry me, Hinata and Sakura? Hinata remarked, of course, as Naruto placed her mother's ring on her finger. Sakura grinned as she accepted Naruto's mother's ring and stated, if I have to. With a smile, Naruto remarked, then we are now officially engaged. Displacing the clone and getting to his feet. Of course, I would rather we not get married until we at least make Chunin level, he said. The two girls exchanged glances and nodded in accord. Where are you going to stay? That's the only question left. The Hokage inquired. They're welcome to stay here, Rin remarked. We'd be more than happy to let them stay with us. Tenten, as we have an extra room that we don't use. Tenten grinned and added, of course, I always wanted siblings. Thanks, Angel, Naruto said with a smile that caused the girl to blush a little. Of course, that doesn't make things the same. There are still going to be people who hide and the shadows to prey on the innocent, he said, and everyone turned to look at the young boy who had changed from being carefree to solemn and serious. With these new powers of mine, there needs to be someone watching in the darkness. Forever in the darkness, a guardian devil, he said, grinning at the old Hokage. The Hokage forewarned the young devil, they'll hunt you. Naruto said, you'll hunt me, you'll condemn me, hell you'll sick the dogs on me because that's what needs to happen, grinning boldly at the Hokage. Because sometimes the truth isn't good enough, sometimes people deserve more, he said, turning to face Sakura and Hinata. Sometimes people deserve to have their faith rewarded, the Hokage said, nodding and getting up to leave the room before pausing in the doorway. Naruto, you have become the hero that Konoha deserves, but not the one it needs right now, the old man said. We will hunt you because I know you can take it, because you are not our hero. You are a silent guardian, a watchful protector, a dark knight, he said, leaving Naruto alone with his thoughts before he left the room to scatter the crowd outside. N/DMC. A young woman was pushed into a corner and the men in front of her were sneering while their brains were spinning with images of wickedness. One of them smirked evilly and said, don't even bother screaming, little girl. No one around will give a damn about what happens to you. What amount would you like to wager on that? A voice from the shadows said. A young man with a glowing red eye and blue and red arm emerged. His white hair slicked back on one side to hide it. The man, who was actually more of a boy, wore a long coat that seemed to have 9 tails, 2 swords on his back, one at his hip and an odd weapon in his left human hand. And who the devil are you? One of the men insisted. The red shadow, the boy replied, simply grinning and lifting his weapon. Naruto sat up in bed, stretched, and heard a few of his joints pop. He looked at the wall clock and realized it was noon. Since he had changed into the red shadow, he had slept mostly in the early mornings until about noon. When he wasn't the red shadow, he worked in the back of Rin's weapon shop, of course, so that no one could see him. He had grown close to Rin and Tenten, thinking of them as his mother and sister. He had also, of course, become very close to his 2 fiancées, and he shook at the thought. Having one at his age was mind-boggling, but having 2 really freaked him out. Rin had all but prohibited the 3 of them from sleeping together, not because she didn't trust him, but because she felt it wasn't right. The 3 of them had been admitted to the Ninja Academy a year early with the Hokage's permission, but they weren't the only ones. Naruto recalled the Ninja Council meeting he had surreptitiously attended while he took a shower. Rewind. Naruto knelt in the top shadows of the rafters in the council room. He rather liked hiding in shadows ever since he'd acquired his devil powers. Dante had explained to him his family history and about his weapons. The katana that came from his left arm was called Yamato and had been the signature weapon of Dante's brother Virgil and his nephew Nero. His right arm, called the Devil Bringer, had also come from Nero and allowed Naruto to create a giant blue glowing hand that could grab its target and imitate what his own arm did, whatever his own arm did. The skeleton broadsword of his had been Dante's personal weapon when he'd been alive, while the giant demonic blade Sparta, which Posse's a sub from called the Force Edge, had been the blade of Dante's father and his own ancestral father, the Dark Knight Sparta. The angled weapon that Dante had called a gun had been named Dawn. It was a combination of the weapons Dante and Nero used. The basic appearance of the gun was based of Dante's old ebony and ivory, while the double-barrel mechanism had come from Nero's blue rose. Looking back down at the gathering, Naruto left his thoughts. Melina Haruno and Hayashi Hyuga led the shinobi and civilian councils in a ruckus, asking that their daughters be returned to them. "You have no authority to prevent me from seeing my daughter," Hayashi said. "So you can sell Haruno her body like you used to? And besides, neither Sakura nor Hinata can go back by force, as they are now the fiancés of Naruto Uzumaki," the Hokage insisted, making the Hyuga head tremble. Naruto grinned as the councils erupted in protest. "The QB is clearly taking effect of the boy. You saw that pillar of red chakra and it clearly came from the fox," Haruno yelled. The ancient war dog didn't want a chance losing a power weapon, but if he didn't have one, he wanted to make sure that he couldn't be used against him. "The boy should either be killed or put into the root program," Danzo remarked. "Neither will take place." "Do none of you remember the fourth's dying wish?" the Hokage screamed, revealing deadly purpose that nearly made everyone in the room cringe. "That the fact that his son possesses the QB makes him a hero." Naruto's eyes widened as he emerged from hiding. His father, the fourth Hokage, had imprisoned QB within him. "Were you both aware of this?" Naruto asked his two tenets. Dante remarked, "Don't look at me, kid. I just woke up when you first activated your powers. However, as I saw you grow up, I began to suspect that you were related to him in some way, even if I was unaware that the man was your father," the fox added. "Nearly everyone in this room has done all in their ability to make that child's life a living hell, despite Minato's request that Naruto be viewed as a hero for the burden he had been forced to bear. All of your own haughty conceit has made that boy physically, mentally, and emotionally afraid, most likely for the rest of his life." The elderly third yelled. After running out of air during the entire tirade, the third began to pant. When Naruto Uzumaki emerged from the shadows, everyone was startled by the sound of clapping. His devil bringer was covered in bandages, and his weapon seals were concealed by his shirt and jacket. His sliver hair was styled the same way it had been when he first acquired his devil powers, with half of it slicked back to reveal his blue eye beneath his bangs. "However, why didn't you inform me that my father was the fourth?" "Well said, old man." The old man sighed and smiled at the boy as Naruto raised an eyebrow in question. "I am sorry, Naruto, but your fathers will stated that you were not to know of your heritage until you were 18 or you made Jonin, whichever came first," the third responded. Naruto sighed and remarked, "I assume you won't tell me who my mother is." The Hokage responded, "I am afraid not," and Naruto nodded while shrugging. "Brat, what are you doing here?" Haruno insisted, before glaring at the woman with the pink hair. Naruto added, "I was just coming by to ask the Hokage a favor. And keep in mind that if you or you Hyuga ever come anywhere near Hinata or Sakura, I'll kill you both," he said. "Is that dangerous?" the chief of the Hyuga clan insisted. "A warning," answered Naruto. "Naruto, what would you like?" the Hokage inquired. Naruto said, "Well, I was wondering if maybe Sakura, Hinata, and I could start at the academy a year early." The third stroked his chin before nodding. "I mean, Rin and Tentenri great and all, but I think the girls need to be out a bit more and mingling with other people," he remarked. "Now wait a moment. Even though the founding Uchiha had later betrayed the first Hokage, the Uchiha head roared, "If this common brat and his little harem are allowed to enter the academy early, then I demand that my son Sasuke also be let in." The Hokage moaned. It had to be Uchiha. As far as the council members were concerned, the sun rose and set because the Uchiha clan willed it to, and they would use the fact that their clan had been part of Konoha's founding to gain influence. "And if you think about it, having a few kids their own age around might be good for them," replied Inoyochi. "He actually does raise a bit of a point, Lord Hokage," Sarutobi said, nodding. Sarutobi said, "Very well. All of your children will attend the academy a year early," Naruto added, bowing to the Hokage before leaping to his feet and vanishing into the darkness. The flashback has ended. When Naruto saw Hinata and Sakura standing in his room after taking a shower, he put a towel around his waist and tried his hair. The three of them were astonished for a solid minute before Naruto made the decision to defuse the situation. He smiled as he continued, "Afternoon, ladies," Hinata replied. "Gee, good afternoon, Naruto," as she gazed at his well-developed physique, her face flushed. "So, why have you two come up to my little bedroom?" Naruto inquired as he glanced between the girls. "We came up here to see if you were awake and to let you know that lunch was ready," Sakura remarked, attempting to focus on his face rather than his towel. Naruto, meanwhile, smirked as he saw Sakura's eyes and Hinata's flush. With an evil smile, he asked, "Or did the two of you just want to catch me in a towel?" Both girls were now flushed to a nice shade of red. Smirking, Naruto let his towel fall to the ground so the girls could see his item in full view. Both girls turned even redder, if that was possible, and Hinata almost passed out. Naruto saw them both flinch at the sight, though, and he pulled the towel back up. "Are you two okay?" Naruto inquired. Sakura began, "Yeah, I think we just had a flashback, Tui." Naruto hung his head and moaned. "I'm sorry," said Naruto. Hinata walked forward and gave her future husband a hug, saying, "It's okay, Naruto. We just need some time." When Naruto grinned and added, "Take all the time you need, sunshine, you two cherry blossom." Sakura grinned and gave Naruto and Hinata a hug. Sakura cradled him in her arms and remarked, "You're the greatest, Naruto." As Naruto changed into shorts and a tank top, the three of them walked downstairs to find Rin and Tenten already seated for lunch. "For you two, I hope to be better," Naruto said. "Now come on, let's go get some lunch, and after that I need to get to work." The two of them nodded and sat down on the bed. "What took the three of you so long?" Tenten smirked as he asked. Hinata blushed slightly and answered, "Nothing you need to worry about, big sister. When Naruto is involved, I'm always worried, Hinata," Tenten replied. Naruto laughed as he continued, "Gee, thanks for the vote of confidence, Angel." Rin grinned and added, "So, I've been hearing a lot of things about the Red Shadow from my customers." "Like what?" Naruto remarked nonchalantly. "Well, half of them are saying that the Red Shadow's a menace who must be put down, and the other half is saying that it's the greatest thing since the fourth Hokage," Rin replied with a chuckle. "I may just surpass my old man in more ways than one," he said. "Naruto, you say something?" Sakura inquired, after saying, "Oh, just that I can't wait to start at the academy tomorrow." Naruto put a hand on each of Sakura's and Hinata's hands. "We'll be okay, girls. Most of the children of the clan heads will be starting with us, and we'll have Tenten there to back us up too." Tenten nodded, approached the three of them, and wrapped her arms around their shoulders. Rin, Sakura, and Hinata all began to giggle at their antics as Tenten remarked, "That's right, big sister Tenten will be there to look out for all three of my little baby siblings," as Naruto pulled her down into a headlock. And /DMC. As they made their way to the academy, Naruto, Sakura, Tenten, and Hinata wore a hynage that Rin had taught him to help him look like he was before his devil powers came on. He still had the devil bringer covered in leather because it didn't seem to be affected, which made Naruto wonder if any ninja skills were involved. Hinata wore sunglasses to conceal her Hyuga eyes, and Tenten stood by their sides, keeping watch over them like a good big sister. Naruto and the others approached a tree and remained there for a few minutes, anxiously surveying the area. "Hi there," remarked a girl with a long blonde ponytail as she approached them, accompanied by a large man eating chips and a child with a slack expression. Sakura waved and said, hi. She responded, "I'm Ino, the big guy's Choji, and he's Shikamaru. What are your names?" Naruto smiled and gave Sakura a little touch. "I'm Sakura Uzumaki. This is Hinata, Naruto, and Tenten," said Sakura. Shikamaru remarked, "You all don't look related." "Well, the name's actually mine," nonchalantly replied Naruto. "Tenten's mom kind of adopted me and now we share the name." "So she also adopted Sakura and Hinata?" Choji inquired. Naruto remarked, "Something like that." Another voice sounded to yell, "Hello, gorgeous ladies," as a small boy with a white puppy dog bounded up, followed closely by a young man with a big coat and sunglasses. "And who are you pretty ladies?" "This is Sakura and I'm Hinata," Hinata added. Tenten fingered a kuni and continued, "And we're their big brother and sister, Tenten and Naruto." Adding their overprotective big brother and sister, Naruto clenched his teeth. As Kiba reached for Hinata's eyeglasses, she began to pull away. But Kiba quickly discovered Naruto's leather-covered hand around his wrist. All right, although I think it's a crime that such a pretty girl should wear those glasses," Kiba muttered. Trying not to snarl, he stated, "She wears them for medical reasons. She has sensitive eyes." Kiba pulled his hand back and muttered, Okay. A new voice questioned, "Is there a problem here?" And everyone turned to see a new boy wearing a blue shirt with dark hair and eyes. Sakura acknowledged that the newcomer looked cute, but her heart belonged to Naruto, and as far as Hinata was concerned, her pale eyes were only for the boy who had literally risked everything for her. "No problem," Naruto said with a smile, looking at Kiba, who glared back. "I'm Sasuke Uchiha," replied the youngster. "You must be the other clan heirs I heard my dad talking about." "I'm Naruto, nice to meet you," Naruto said, shaking the boy's hand. We're just some kids who were able to get in early," he added. Sakura replied, "Well, we better get to class," and Naruto nodded before saluting Sasuke with a tiny two-finger gesture. He grinned and added, "See you around, Uchiha." He then headed to their classroom with his sister and future wives. As they entered, Hinata gasped and drew closer to Naruto. Naruto's eyes furrowed as he recognized a young boy with the distinctive Hyuga eyes. Naruto smiled and patted her hand, saying, "I won't let him do anything to you, sunshine. It's okay." Hinata sighed in relief as she snuggled closer to Naruto, who led her up to a set of seats away from the Hyuga boy. Naruto himself sat down with Tenten, Sakura, and Hinata on his left and a young boy with bushy eyebrows, a black ponytail, and a pale GI. "None of us will," Sakura said, grinning at the girl. "Hey there, I'm Naruto," beaming, Naruto said. The boy grinned and said, "Hello, Naruto. I'm Rock Lee." As the week went on, Naruto discovered a lot about his classmates. Kiba acted like a wild animal, and Naruto actually based some of his goofball mask on him, just toned down. Shino was the solitary type of guy. Even though Naruto thought his skills and bugs were pretty amazing, that girl, Ino, quickly became friends with Sakura, Hinata, and Tenten. Sasuke was gradually becoming Naruto's best friend while Neji was turning into his worst enemy. Naruto allowed him to be beaten by the Hyuga in sparring and in the classroom, but after speaking with Sasuke, the Uchiha was more than happy to do what Naruto couldn't. This made Naruto and his family smirk a lot. Rock Lee had also caught Naruto's attention. However, it turned out that the boy's chakra paths were so messed up that he was incapable of using genjutsu or ninjutsu. Naruto decided to help the child with his taijutsu. He knew a lot of Dante's styles, but he chose to teach him the agile trickster style and the defensive royal guard style. By combining the two sets of skills, Lee was practically untouchable, and even if someone were to touch him, his defense was almost impenetrable. Overall, Naruto could sense that there will be a huge celebration at the school. As he approached the Uchiha compound, he heard the clanging of blades and shot down into the courtyard, where he saw a lone ANBU agent fending off what appeared to be every Uchiha in the area. Leaping down, the Red Shadow stopped an attack that was coming from the ANBU's blind spot. His coat was rippling in the wind as he leaped from roof to roof. The Shadow remarked, "Looks like you could use some help there, buddy." The ANBU said, "Thanks for the save, Fox." When he pulled Rebellion from his shoulder and stopped an attack, the Shadow raised an eyebrow and said, "Weasel? What the hell are you doing here?" Itachi responded, "Well, my real name is Itachi Uchiha," so throwing a shuriken at his assailant as he ducked beneath a kuni assault. After thwarting another attempt and sending Dawn to kill a few assailants, Naruto acknowledged, "Okay, that does explain a few things. But why are you fighting the other Uchiha?" he said. "They want to rebel against the village," Itachi says. "And as much as I care for my family, I care more for this village." Naruto beheaded and attacked Uchiha, asking, "Is Sasuke around?" Itachi answered, "No, he's safe, but I couldn't save my mother." He swiftly performed a number of hand songs and blasted a group with a huge fireball. "Just point me in the directions of the fucker who killed her and I'll be happy to decapitate him," Naruto replied, swiftly removing Yamato from his arm and putting it back in its sheath. Dozens of Uchiha were reduced to pieces of flesh as soon as the blade clicked shut. "Thank you for the offer, but I've already taken care of him," Itachi remarked, lowering the final assailant to the ground after stabbing him. "That is all of them," he added. Naruto questioned, "So what are you gonna do now?" "I'll have to flee the village and let them believe that I have destroyed my own clan," Itachi sadly stated. "I can take the blame for it," Naruto replied. "I mean, you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. I can do those things because I'm not a hero. Thank you, but I can't let you do that, Naruto," Itachi replied. "You are a symbol of hope, peace, and justice for too many of the villagers here. I will shoulder this burden. There is actually more I can do for the villager on the outside." When Naruto said, "Just take care of yourself, Weasel. There is something I would like for you due to Naruto," Itachi replied. "Watch out for Sasuke and keep him on the straight path." Naruto declared, "I'll do everything I can," as the two longtime friends leaped in different directions. After sending the girls on their way, Naruto waited outside the academy the following day. The only significant issues any of them had ever had were Neji and preventing Kiba from making out with Hinata. At last, he noticed Sasuke approaching with his head lowered. Naruto replied, "Hey Sasuke," and the boy glanced up before lowering his gaze once more. He questioned, "What do you want, Naruto?" When Naruto continued, "I heard about what happened to your clan," Sasuke's head jerked up and glared at him. Sasuke screamed, "How could you possibly have known?" Naruto glanced around before removing his devil bringer. "Because I was there," Naruto murmured, "because I'm the Red Shadow. Sasuke, your clan was going to rebel against the village and Itachi and I were forced to kill them." Sasuke yelled, "What about my mother?" Naruto said, concealing his devil bringer once more. "Itachi said that someone killed her before he could stop it. He also told me that he already killed her murderer. He also asked me to watch out for you, and I'm going to, because you're my best friend, practically my brother, and I'm not the only one who thinks so. Hinata, Sakura, Tenten, we all look to you as a part of our family. Face it, Uchiha." Naruto laughed. "You're an Uzumaki." Sasuke glanced at Naruto before he began to laugh, then stopped and grinned. Sasuke remarked, "Thanks, Naruto, I needed that." Putting his arm around his friend's shoulder, Naruto murmured, "No problem, Sasuke. Let's go." Sasuke appeared to be becoming more and more assimilated into the Uzumaki family as the days went by. He and Lee, who was also an honorary Uzumaki, had engaged in sparring matches between Naruto and Lee. Sasuke was unable to match Naruto's skill with the blade, but he was gradually beginning to learn how to counter Lee's trick guard technique. Using his innately high speed and reflexes, the trick guard had swiftly emerged as Lee's strongest weapon. His main weakness was that he only had one effective offensive technique. With Sasuke nearby, Lee was gradually learning how to defend himself, albeit not as a brawler. The Hyuga made it difficult for Hinata to forget the pain that her father and family had caused her. Even with her fiancé and sisters by her side, it was difficult for her to regain the strength she needed to overcome things like Sakura had. Ino also appeared to be integrating with the family, or at least the girls. She couldn't stand Naruto, at least not when he was wearing his goofball mask. She and Sakura were getting along like sisters, which made Naruto happy. Tenten also found it difficult to relate to anyone at school, and Hinata was still a little too shy and nervous around the others, especially with Niji. With Sasuke now the last surviving loyal Uchiha, at least in the eyes of the village, Melina Haruno was fighting to get Sakura married off to him. Unfortunately for her, when Sasuke was taken in with the Uzumakis, he was informed of Naruto and the girls' rather unusual marriage arrangements and rejected Haruno's attempts to get him and Sakura married. The Harunos and Hyugas were still breathing down the necks of the Uzumakis to reclaim their daughters, and Naruto and Rin were still fighting tooth and nail to keep them away. Naruto had already mastered the fundamentals of ninja, but he had also mastered Dante's sword training. Like Dante, he preferred to use Rebellion or Sparta in battle and only used Yamato for a few moves. He had learned how to use summon swords, which were spectral versions of the Force Edge that could be used as projectile weapons, and his aim for Dawn was always getting close to Bull's eyes with both hands. With Kyuubi's assistance, he was also able to piece together fragments of the tailed beast's past. It seems that a strange group of ninjas wearing a cloak hypnotized the fox into attacking the village. The Sharingan user swiftly rose to the top of Naruto's hit list, along with everyone else that Bastard collaborated with. After pleading with Rin and making some minor home improvements, Sasuke and Lee moved in with the rest of the Uzumaki family. They had to share a room, but neither of them objected. Another positive sign was that the Hyugas and Harunos were moving away from them, and Hinata was gradually opening up to some of the other students at school. Eventually, the Uzumaki family grew closer until Naruto, Hinata, and Sakura shared a bed. Naruto was sitting back on the weapon shop's roof on a cool summer night when the shit hit the fan. He hadn't had to do much patrol lately because the Hokage had reconstructed the police force using some of his more reliable ANBU agents, but he still sent out some shadow clones to assist or signal in case the police force needed assistance. Tenten replied as she approached her younger brother. "Looking up at the moon again, Naruto?" "Yeah, I can't help but feel at peace when I'm looking up at it when it's full," Naruto replied, reclining back. "From what the furball can tell me, the body of some kind of super-tailed beast that the fox as a portion of power is locked into the moon." "Well, as much as I love the history lesson, lil bro," Tenten replied. "The girls are ready for the big anniversary dinner." Naruto sat up and rubbed the devil bringer, saying, "It's hard to believe it's already been a year since our little family came together. It's been 2 years since I changed." Tenten slapped him on the head and said, "You just woke up your true power, Naruto." Naruto grinned at her and patted his head. "You didn't change, Naruto," Tenten remarked. Naruto kissed her cheek and murmured, "Thanks, Angel." "You got the girls' presents ready, right?" he asked. Tenten groaned and rubbed the back of her head. "Geez, between you and Hinata and Sakura, the plans for those replicas and all those weapons I'm helping you and Mom make," she said. "You're working me to death over here," Naruto said with a smile and put his arm over Tenten's shoulders. Naruto replied, "You'll be fine, Angel. After all, you're the weapons mistress of Konoha," as they entered the kitchen. Naruto immediately went to kiss Sakura and Hinata on the cheeks. Naruto smiled and said, "Happy anniversary, future Mrs. Uzumaki's." My Lee, have you ever seen anything more heartwarming?" asked Sasuke. "Heartwarming, vomit-inducing, either way," Lee chuckled. Naruto's Devil Bringer swiftly defeated the two of them. "Naruto, what have I told you about using the Devil Bringer in the house?" Rin asked. "Sorry, ma'am," Naruto grinned as he explained. Tenten replied, "Well, I think it's time to move on to the anniversary presents. And because I worked really hard to manufacture these things, you guys had better like them." "Your first, girls," Naruto stated, bringing out 2 small cases. The girls exchanged glances before opening the boxes to reveal a double-barrel shotgun in one and a matched pair of M1911 handguns in the other. "Hinata, yours are called Loose, and Umbra, I've made a few modifications to them so that don't need reloading. I figure with you Byakugan you won't miss a shot once I teach you how to shoot," Naruto clarified. "Your Sakura is the Coyote A. I've sealed a bunch of bullets into it, but you'll still need to eject the used ones. They can both be charged up to increase the power with chakra. I gave you the more booming seems more for you. I'll help you both out with them when we have some time out of class." Sakura replied, "We've got a little something for you too, Naruto," as she and Hinata took out another case and opened it for him. When he saw the weapon in front of him, his mouth fell open and he began to drool a little. It had 3 barrels and what appeared to be revolver chambers. Naruto exclaimed, "Girls, this is beautiful," as he picked up the weapon and peered down at the scene. "It's called Eclipse," Tenten told me. 3 barrels, sealed bullets, and enough firepower to mow down just about anyone. "Well," Sasuke remarked, "I suppose that's that. Bring on the food." While the girls had to bring one up between them, Naruto remarked, "Not quite yet," reaching down and removing 2 more cases. "Come on, Naruto, this is a family moment," remarked Lee. "Sasuke, Lee, as far as I'm concerned, you two are my brothers in every way but blood, just like Tenten is our sister," Naruto said, opening one of the cases to reveal a pair of Hinata-style guns with long blades and skulls on the outside. "I give you ebony and ivory, good for up close or far away. I'll help you learn to shoot the same time I'm teaching the girls. And now for you, Lee," Naruto said, cracking it open and revealing a large double-barrel revolver with a long blade. "The Rose Queen, I've still got a few friends in ANBU and they helped me put it together. Just turn the dial and the butt of the gun and rev it up to fill the blade with nature chakra," Naruto said. Sasuke held the 2 rifles in his hand and remarked, "Naruto, these are," before raising them. "Amazing," Lee concluded after practicing a few swings with the Rose Queen. Tenten remarked, "You're really lucky boys. What do you believe you're missing out on?" Sakura pushed, holding Hinata and the big coffin-shaped case, and asked. Hinata stated, "It's called the Punisher. Basically, I've got you hooked up with a rocket launcher and a small missile pod in the back with a bayonet blade on the end," Sakura said. Hinata went on, "A powerful sniper rifle with ricochet bullets, and my personal favorite, a demonic laser crossbow," Naruto said. "Ladies and gentlemen, I now officially welcome you to the new Devil May Cry. The who, what, and now?" Lee inquired. "Devil May Cry," said Naruto. "It's what Dante used to call his old demon hunting business. Figured it would make a pretty good team name." Tenten slipped the coffin onto her arm and flexed it to adjust to the weight. "Sounds pretty good," she remarked. "Devil May Cry, it is," Sakura grinned.